Hello and welcome to another edition of the Culture Hour. My name is Shelley Smith and I'm your founder and your hostess. And I am always so honored and thrilled to be here with you today. You know, the topics over the world it's just crazy on the daily, especially here in the US. If you're following us right now, there are so many things going on way above and beyond even COVID-19. So today we're going to have a little bit of a twist with the excitement of the guests that we have on today. So remember, culture starts with you. And today we are going to talk to Daniel Chan. And I'm honored for Daniel to be on here today. He's actually a Silicon Valley thought leader. And he's had a lot of different experiences, including being a very well-renowned magician who comes to events. And today we're going to talk about, we're still talking about workplace culture, but we're going to do it with a twist. And Dan is going to even give us a demo, and I'm going to talk through it as well for those of you who are not watching. But enough about that. Dan, what is, before we kind of get into your presentation and our conversation today, what is maybe something interesting additional that you would like to maybe give a little bit of background and street cred to yourself to let the viewers and the listeners know who you are?
Yeah, I am a proud father, so you'll hear my kids running around in the back.
Yay.
That is part of company culture. When you are working, you bring your kids and family in on it, and hopefully they won't crash too much, but you will hear them running back. That's my daughter in the background. But I just did an event. I think there was 300 plus people, and they brought in, it was for Turbonomics. Mm-hmm. I did this customized event. I learned about the company culture, and I really did a new presentation for them. In fact, I kind of had a safe place to fail, because even when I'm doing new things, I'm challenging myself and I'm pushing myself to the limits. But it's important that when we allow our people on our team, we have to train them correctly. And then we have to allow them to, hopefully we'll train them so well that they don't have to make mistakes. But when they do make mistakes, we keep them on our team. So they're valuable because they've learned from those mistakes, and we treat people like individuals. And that's a hard lesson for me, especially in the beginning, when you're so goal-oriented and focused on what you want to do and what's in it for you. You forget about your client and your customers. So your customers want you to connect with them. And that's kind of what my job is. My job is a company brand ambassador. On behalf of the company, I'm thanking them for their staff working so hard. I'm giving them a special treat.
Yeah, I love that. I tell you, for those of you who are viewing and again listening and are not familiar with you, Dan, Dan actually reached out to me and for an inquiry, and I quickly obviously went on and looked him up, and he had given some videos and some clips, and you just articulated it really well, in that companies bring you in to give thanks to the employees and the team members in a unique way, in a fun way, in an engaging way. And then the other part of the conversation that you and I just had before we hit record, about trying and doing new things, and what is it that we can bring to each and every situation in a different way. And you're even doing these amazing presentations now from a virtual stage and still giving thanks, which I absolutely love. As we continue our conversation today, I know that you have brought in or prepared a short thing that you've done for years when you walk around, probably used to in person, when you walk around tables and kind of talk to the groups individually to give thanks. So why don't we dive into the presentation that you have? And if you'll allow me, while you're showing and talking, take a pause in between, and I'll let those that are not viewing, I will describe what it is that you're doing, and hopefully we can allow the imagination to creep in to what it is you're doing. So go ahead. Why don't you get started?
Yeah, and of course, you can go to Shelley's page on YouTube.
Yep.
And check that out. Shelley, if you could spotlight me as well, that way when we record that video, it actually stays on me, because when you talk, the screen will jump to you. So
yeah,
if you spotlight me or film both of them at the same time, that would work. But spotlight is always the best. And we've gone through this pivot in Zoom. Right when this happened, my whole business model changed. I lost close to $8,000 in bookings in 1 week for future, and that was just pretty devastating for us. So I've pivoted to Zoom, and I've been a part of company culture and Agents for Change. So
Yeah, which I love. So we're go. So just to start, so Dan has two rubber bands in his hands. So go ahead, Dan.
yeah, we have two rubber bands that are intersecting, and you are the true star of the company, and we thank them for all the hard work that they've done throughout the week and the years. There's a lot of things today. They were thanking people for the number of years they've been in service. So this is a superstar.
So he
Or,
took two rubber bands simply in his hands, and now I see a cute little star. Go ahead.
yeah. But what makes you a true star is who you are on the inside, the
Oh my gosh.
kindness that you
I
show.
love that so much. It's a cute little star inside of all the stars with the same rubber bands. I'm sorry. I just think it's so cute. I had to stop. Yeah, please go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
And what you do day in and day out molds you into a superstar.
Oh my gosh. And then finally, the two original rubber bands goes into the singular piece. Well, my mind is riveting with all kinds of workplace culture pieces of little nuggets that you just talked about there. You know, I have to ask, how did you come up with the original presentation, and what is it that you understand now how that has so much relative space of not just rewarding and giving praise to team members when the companies ask you to come in, but the deeper meaning behind all three of those phases you took those rubber bands through?
Yeah. Sometimes when you see something the first time, you don't realize what you're getting into. And I saw this from a gentleman I was mentoring, and I've seen it done with other people. But when I saw him perform it, the guy's name was he hired me for coaching and mentoring, and I mentor a lot of people, and he hired me to mentor him. So I saw him perform it, and it was that in the back of my mind. And then I said, hey, this is something very powerful. So not only did I learn it, I taught that and the entire presentation to my son. So we crafted this message because he who tells the best story in life wins. So we are always telling a story. So we want to tell stories that are positive. And I think I'm a part of this thing called civic dinners, and this just popped in my inbox. That's so relevant that they're talking about definition of an ally. And there's just so much that is on the civic dinners email list. So you guys should check out Civic Dinners with Jen at Civic Dinners. That's something that just popped in my inbox, and maybe we could discuss some of those things throughout the conversation.
Right. No, it sounds good. No, please do. Tell me a little bit more about that. What is it, and what are the nuggets that you're getting inside of that?
Yeah. Well, there's something that I think I was at fault of. Avoid sharing content which is traumatic. On number 5, that just popped in my email. I was just myself. I did that because that was done out of fear, because we see so much in the news. So that to me was hitting hard. But there's 10 things. I don't know if I want to read all of them out, but if they probably would. Maybe I can repost this on my LinkedIn or something so that everyone can see it. And each one is
I don't know if there's
so powerful. And each one of these could be a half an hour podcast in themselves.
Gotcha. Well, we'll definitely go back and check that out, and I'll look it up and try to post that link. So after you get done viewing the video and reading it, then I'll be able to, you can click on the link for that. So Dan, let's go back to the things that you've learned. When you and I were talking before we hit record, you said that you've even had some aha moments recently with yourself personally, and then as you've been crafting and doing some additional presentation. What are some of those before thoughts and processes, and where are you now as it relates to workplace culture and the importance?
Yeah, so we'll bring in another demonstration. My son's back there, and he's going to join me right here just to help reach over the top and show you another video demonstration.
Okay.
So this is a transformation mechanism. This is James.
Hello,
and
James.
He's going to help out backstage.
Okay.
So James is going to hold on to the dollar bill right here.
Okay.
So what do you see here?
I see a $2 bill that's got a slight hole cut in the middle with a little box. I can see through it.
Okay, and the front or the back of the bill faces you.
I see the back of the bill.
Okay. Quite often people are, lower a little bit. Quite often people are holding on to their opinions and beliefs a little too tightly to see anything else. That's when you need a speaker, a mentor, a magician to transform the way you see something. Even though James has never let go,
Mm-hmm.
the front of the bill now faces you and the back
Very,
faces me.
very cool.
Now,
Yeah.
the lesson here is quite often we are holding on to their opinions
Mm-hmm.
and beliefs so tightly that we can't see anything else. And it really takes a special speaker to transform the way that we see things. That is something that's worth sharing. And that's one of the presentations that I embed in my customized presentations. Yeah.
Got you. I love that as well. How do you come up with when a company leader calls you and says, "Hey, we want to now, virtually bring you in." How do you go through and disseminate what the appropriate things are with the messaging that they're asking you to do through the presentations that you choose?
Yeah, it's not. It's partially it's what the client writes in the email. The more detailed they are, the more I know that they want to customize. If they just say, "Hey, we want something," it's turnkey. I'm just going to pass it to someone else, or it's probably not the right fit for me because I have 5,000 shows. You don't need a regular magician for certain events if you want to transform culture. So it's about the amount of detail. This is just what someone sent me, and I'll use some of it. And I'm still getting better at this because, to be honest, I didn't go through all of these. This was a big learning experience. This is the list of the CEO. He's telling me that Ben Nye is brilliant, driven, articulate, and passionate. Like he had something saying turbo time. So they're writing out these emails that are detailed to me. And sometimes I'll be able to use that, even if it's one thing in there. There's the envelope that we had this morning. I took that down, but we've done something for these companies, and we customize everything with a prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I have time, I'll try to integrate things. Sometimes it's just improvisational, but when you have a lot of skills and when you have a clowning background, clowning teaches you how to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Clowning teaches you how to break down the barrier, and that helps you not hide behind the trick. Because quite often I'm hiding. We all have these masks that we're putting on, masks that we want people to see us as.
Mm-hmm. Which is often what leaders do. And when we talk about transparency inside of workplace culture, especially, I continually finding myself now using the word especially. These things are always important. They're relevant at any time. But when we talk about, I know when I've talked about transparency in the past, to your point, it is being authentic and owning up to what it is that you do know, what it is you don't know, and allowing others to share in the leadership, the responsibility, you're crafting the agility, the ideation in order to come up with a better solution. I want to come back to something that you just showed. You showed a list of responses that, if I understood correctly, the CEO had given you, pointing out some awards and recognition statements for some of their team members. Is that correct?
It wasn't the CEO, but it was the person who was my point of contact. He gave me information on the family, and how they had parents and kids. They had a list of things that I could have pulled on. Unfortunately, I didn't, with so much in my calendar, I didn't integrate enough of that.
No, but my question inside of that is, I wanted to point out to the listeners that every single team member should be able to give a list of things that their other team members are doing right inside of their workplace culture. So if you were asking for you, Dan, to come in and you said, "Hey, Shelley, can you give me some examples of things that you want to make sure that I praise the team members on?" You're asking me to give a list of what they're doing right. And for me, it's that crafting of the culture playbook of what right looks like. And so I just wanted to point out that when you're going to bring somebody in to do rewards and recognition, such as yourself, Dan, being able to articulate you should be able to naturally be able to articulate all of the incredible things that your team members are doing all around you. And it just, again, because some of you are not watching this, you're listening to this, it was literally a list. Even if it didn't come from the CEO, it was literally a list of people's names, like stories, point out events, things that they had done that the organization wanted to make sure that they were recognized for. And I love that. And I just wanted to point out that it's so quick to be able to point out what people are doing wrong, we think, and where the errors are and where the gaps are, but it's not so easy and quick to point out all the amazing things. And that's kind of what I wanted to take away when you pulled up that piece of paper, what really resonated with me. And I want to make sure that those of you who are listening, that if you're a journaler, I ask you to journal a lot, but to write down those things that were right about the day and the team members that did that, so you can go back and point out in a reward and recognition standpoint. Are there
Praise in
some?
public.
Yes, absolutely. How did you get into this, and why the different shifts? Let's
Yeah.
let's go back in time
I
with
don't
you.
want to talk too much about me. I've been on a lot of other podcasts you can look up that talks about my career, and I'll just let them go down that rabbit hole if they want to do that. And we can share some links, the most recent links, but that's
Sure.
what I've done in the past. It's a very interesting how we interact with people and how we give respect to those that we're in charge of and leader. Like with Simon, I'm sure all your listeners have heard Simon Sinek,
Yep.
Leaders eat last, and many of the other things that he talks
Start with
about.
why, and yep.
So those are some of the things that we keep in mind. And I don't want to rehash that, but those are some of the things that I've been making a conscious effort as myself, wanting to be a thought leader. And you have to just say that that's who you are. It's kind of like what we say is very important. So there's one event in my performance. I'm doing this prediction, but the script is the most important part of that. I say it's important to focus on your thought and your motivations. Your thoughts determine your actions determine your habits, and your habits determine your destiny. So it's from that thought to the action to the habit to your destiny. And then I integrate a magic thing in it where it's like, oh, wow. But that's the core message is more important than the trick.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, are there some common themes that you've seen over the last 60 days for you as you've transitioned into doing the virtual presentations that companies are asking you to give reward and recognition to their teams?
It's changing as we go along. It just is. I'm very fluid. I have so much show experience. I have 4.5 hours worth of stuff around me. I was going to break in new things, and I'm just constantly working on new things so I can present new things to them in new lights and new ways. Because if we stay still, we can't improve. We can't push that to the next level. So with regards to it, a lot of times people say, hey, this is about our company. They'll tell me a little bit about the company and I'll learn about it. Even if it's not directly integrated, they can tell that I've done research into looking through their company culture. And I spread this as my company culture is a family business. My son does everything that I can do, and he does it even better because I've taught him the right way. He doesn't have all that, the baggage that I have. Everything that all my mistakes, I figured it out and I passed it on to that, because there's a gentleman, a great gentleman by the name of Dr. Miles Monroe, and he has these great leadership sermons out there. And he says, there's no true success without a successor.
So true. Absolutely. One of the things, again, that I'm pulling out of the conversation is the importance of mentorship, the importance of creating and really embracing those around you who want to learn more. To your point, it happens to be your son. Inside of organizations, there are always people who want to learn more and be more and show up in order to do that and to pass it down, and that becomes your legacy as a leader. So when you leave, you have obviously let's see, Jim Collins says in Good to Great, the 5-star leader is the person who can leave and everything keeps going. And the 4-star leader is great and loved when he or she is there and is inspiring, but as soon as they leave, everything falls apart. So obviously, we want to be the person who is transparent and transferred our knowledge and the inspiration and become that 5-star leader. So Dan, just in some final wrapping pieces today, you've given some great little nuggets of things that you use as resources. So I wanted to find out, is there one more presentation that you want to do, or their final thoughts around this? And then I want to put a wrap on why people should probably reach out, because this is a very unique time that we're in, but I'll wait for that close. Is there another presentation or kind of some final thoughts?
There's so much in my mind right now in terms of what to do. I actually think that I'll just leave it at that. Maybe afterwards, I'll show you a little bit in presentation wise and perform for you. But I just wanted to say it's important to, let me just read it as a list of what I saw in the How to Be an Ally, that just to give a call to action. Jen from Civic Dinner sent this to me this morning.
Okay.
I got on there. Says how to be an ally. Understanding what optical allyship is, and then that's and I'll share this email with you so you can share with the viewers and listeners. Check on your Black friends, families, partners, loved ones, and colleagues. Be prepared to do the work. Read up on anti-racist works. Avoid sharing content which is traumatic. Donate to funds and support initiatives. Don't center this narrative around yourself, which is something that's very hard for me to do, because in order to become, where I'm at, a lot of times you're focused on yourself. So we have to shift that perspective. Keep support after the outrage. Stop supporting organizations that promote hate, and start your long-term strategy. So we have to always look on the inside and, focus on love.
This is great. I have to tell everybody who is listening and viewing that both Dan and I have come on today's show and pivots, and there's so many emotions wrapped up into what's happening around us. And Dan, I just want to thank you for bringing in and making that your close. I think that is amazing. I love that so much, and please do send that over, and I will put that in the post. It takes one person at a time, and then the multiplied and the positive contagions begin to happen. And you're right, we have to reflect on ourselves first, and what are we giving back, and how are we aligning, and how are we being allies, to your point. So I love that so much, so much. So I'm going to put a wrap on today, and I'm going to give you some resources to reach out to Dan. One of the reasons why, when Dan and I were in conversation before coming on today, is I thought that many of you are struggling with how to manage and how to lean in your virtual workspace. Whether you were telecommuting before, allowing for flex scheduling, almost all of you have now gone remote in one way, shape, or form, or your manager is remote and you're still, on the front line. Being able to reward, recognize, and lift your team members up right now is just beyond critical. We have to find a way to give grace and thanks on the daily, and sometimes in every moment, in order to continue to go and to continue to rise. And so this is an opportunity that Dan has given us, that you can do it in a very unique way. And what a surprise it would be to have, instead of a virtual happy hour, that you're bringing Dan on, for example, to really be able to showcase and give praise to your team in a very unique way, and definitely rememberable way. So I encourage you to do that. I don't get on my show and encourage other people and platforms, but this is one that I have to do, and I have to encourage. It's just a unique opportunity, and all of you who have reached out to me with other ways to give thanks and recognize, well, here's one that just got served up to you today. So Daniel, we definitely thank you for being on here today. I'll give your tips and tricks and resources for people who want to know more about you. So remember, in closing, my name is Shelly Smith, the proud owner of Premier Rapport, where everything is workplace culture related. Culture isn't built in a day. Culture is built every single day. It begins with each and every one of us, because when there's more than two, then a new culture is forming. What do you want the culture around you to be inside of your building, your team, your organization? That's it for today. Have a great one. Dan, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shelley.